And then we want to come in with the usual enamel odorless thinners, and then we're going to do the usual. Let's dip it into our thinners. Let's touch it on a kitchen paper towel just to make sure the brush is damp and not wet. And what we're going to do, we're going to move up and down, flick this up and down, right, to create a streak. And hopefully, as you can see just there, because of the way we've done it, the enamel odorless thinners has nicely feathered that down. It's streaked down into a nice point, and we've got ourselves a pretty good streak going on there. So just to show you that again, we can just flick it down, right, maybe even flick up if you feel like it. But the problem is you don't want to be playing with it too much, right, because we could try and get this streak perfect in the first go. This one just here, we could sort of flick down here, move it down, and we're trying to sort of get it in the first go, and boom, that is just completely disappeared. We've completely cleaned that up. Right, so that's like basically completely gone now. So what you want to do is go give it a flick once or twice, let it dry again for like another 15 minutes. If you're not completely happy, let it dry again so you don't completely obliterate it, and then you just repeat the process I've just shown you again until you've got it just right. Now, we've been using a lot of enamel and oil products, which can be quite damaging to your paintbrushes. So what you want to be doing, I've used quite a few paintbrushes here with this today. So you want to go off, you want to get out something like the Masters brush cleaner and just start cleaning these up, because trust me, if you don't clean them up after using things like enamels and oils and lacquers and all these kind of paints, you know, your expensive paintbrushes are going to sort of wear down pretty quickly. Right, but this will keep them going for years. So I'm going to carry on with this. If you want a bit more detail on this, you can go to Dennis Models website, and there is a product review or a tutorial, I can't remember, of using this product. So there is the finished nice couple of streaks there, which sort of sets that off rather nicely. What we're going to do now is probably my favourite part when it comes to scale modelling, because it really sort of brings the model to completion almost, which is to put on a matte coat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in about a 50-50 mix of good old homebrew thinners and matte UV varnish. I really do recommend this product. It's my go-to matte varnish. It really does give you a nice matte finish. It doesn't sort of discolor anything, and you know, it says on the tin that it's got an added UV varnish protection, which why not? Because you know, we don't want our models yellowing over the years. Give it a good mix with a paintbrush to make sure it's all mixed in there, all good. Right, and actually I might put on a glove because I don't want to leave any nasty fingerprint marks just before putting on our matte varnish. Right, so I'm going to start with the front end, and as always we start off with a light misty coat. Right, just nice and all round. I'm just doing the front bit just to start with, and this is what I like about this, and it's also something you need to keep in mind with putting a matte varnish down on, is that we have had gloss coats after gloss coats, and gloss coats will make your model look darker and shinier, and it can even start to hide your pre-shading, bleaching, post-shading, all the weathering we've done. It can sort of hide all that, but when the matte coat goes down, it lightens up the model, and it does sort of bring out all that work you've been doing a little bit more. So it's almost where you want to sort of, when you are doing your weathering or any of your spraying, you do want to keep in mind that it's going to come a little bit more to the foreground when you put your matte coat on. So you may be sort of weathering up your model and thinking, right, that looks okay, and then it gets knocked back with the gloss coat, and then it sort of comes back with the matte coat. You sort of keep that in mind, so you've kind of got to have a bit of experience and sort of maybe sort of visualize it in your head to sort of predict the end result. So if we bring you in, I'm just going to do a nice simple light coat on this now, and you should probably see it really starting to actually matte up now, and it should get that little bit lighter. I'm just cutting to where, and I can sort of see now that things are nicely coming along, and hopefully you'll like how it sort of ended up being weathered. I mean, we are just getting that light bit of dusting coming along. It's not too heavy, and it just sets it off rather nicely. It really does give it a nice bit of eye candy. So I'm going to carry on putting a matte coat on this. So just look at that beauty now that we've got that matte coat on there. It really does sort of bring it all out looking nice and dirty. Now we want to get off our canopy mask. So with our canopy mask, right, we want to be really sort of careful, and just with a blade we want to just nick it right in the corner, right, just a little, just get it and sort of flick it up, right, coming into a nice angle, and just get it flicked up just like so. Then we can come in with some tweezers and start to peel it back nice and slowly. Don't just come along and then just rip it all the way off. You sort of want to follow around the edges, right? This sort of prevents the actual paint from actually, you know, coming up, say, on the edges and sort of peeling up a bit of the paint. If we sort of just do it like that, so maybe we could use our fingers now, and as I say, I'm trying to pull it as close to the edge as possible so we don't peel up any of the paint around the edges. Right, and then this is also kind of like, it's the cool part because we start to see all our interior, but have we made any mistakes is the other thing. So looking at that, I mean, it's still looking all nice and good. I'm not seeing any major problems. What we can do is come along with a cotton wool bud, maybe just a little bit moist, and just sort of maybe sort of clean up any sort of imperfections, i.e., you know, maybe a bit of our washes and that have got underneath the decor. Might want to just sort of, you know, sort of clean that up, as well as sort of cleaning up the actual residue left over from the masking tape, just to get them looking all nice and crystal clear again. I have noticed actually it did peel up, actually, just in the center there. As you can see, that's just peeled up, so that's no worries. What we can do to simply fix that, you can come along with a paintbrush, or you could come along with your airbrush, and be plain and simply would come along and just sort of get the masking tape either side of it, right, and then just give that a little bit of a spray, which I'll do later off camera. And as you can see also, I have removed all our spongy stuff from the inside. Now there's probably a little bit around the edges. I mean, I could just almost see here we do have a bit of overspray with the green paint, but that's just fine. We could come along with a paintbrush and just paint that across there, maybe re-weather it, just like I showed you doing all that internal spraying and weathering that we did in there. Just do the same around the edges just to tidy that up. And really there's a few things now where I'm just gluing things on and that kind of stuff, so I'm going to move along with this. So I've been moving along, and I've just sort of come along and I've like glued on a few little bits here and there, just plain simple gluing. But when we come to sort of gluing on our doors, we need to sort of be careful, because if you remember, we've got pure photo etch on the inside, which means we can't use good old Tamexvin cement to glue it together because it's metal, and we can't really use something like super glue because we'd have to super glue the back, and then we'd glue it on, and then this window here would just totally steam up with, like, it's like a foggy sort of vapor from the super glue. So what we sort of need to do is use something like PVA. Now PVA is going to glue it nicely, but it's going to need a little bit of help. So what we're going to do, all right, is we're going to take this and we're going to add a bit of PVA. Although this is canopy glue, which kind of dries to a nice clear sort of glass finish. It's a bit more fancy than PVA. And what we're going to just do here is we're just going to add a couple of blobs of this, just here and there, where it's going to sort of glue to the model, and just a nice bit along the top here as well, because it's going to be this little bit here that's going to be visible. Right, get out a cotton wool bud, right, because we're going to be possibly needing this, and then we're going to move this around nice and carefully, because we are at the end stage and everything's getting all quite delicate, right? And we're going to then sort of carefully place this in position. Right, just letting it sit there while I sort of work out the best position for it. Right, I just want to slide that down a bit. Right, you might notice, you know, a little bit of that PVA glue has gone on the model where we don't exactly want it, but that's no big deal. So now I've got it in a general sort of position that I want it. Cotton wool bud, a little bit moist, had a bit of leakage of PVA just come out of there, so I'm just cleaning that. We've got none on the underside. Then we're going to come in with these T-clamps. These are really cool if you want to get hold of them. What we're going to do is very carefully and very sort of lightly, we're now going to just lightly clamp this down. Now this is a delicate model at this stage, right, and there is paint work as well, so we don't want to be pressing down too hard, just enough so we can see that that has nicely sort of sealed in there. Right, and then basically you need to leave that for a fair while now, because I mean it is PVA glue. I mean you're probably talking like half an hour for it to really sort of lock down. Leave that, and that should sort of lock that on quite good. And not only that, I mean it's PVA glue, it doesn't really sort of really bond so badly, so you know, if it does break off, or if you do want to change the position of the door, you could, and you potentially, you know, stand a good chance of not actually ruining the paintwork, because it's just PVA glue. So while that's drying, what I want to do is give our windows a really sort of cool look. Now I have sort of gone off and basically made a mask, a nice little mask for this specific task. Now it's not easy, shall we say, it's a bit of a sort of a trial and error, but you're sort of basically getting your window wiper piece, right, that comes with a kit, and you're sort of going to mark, you know, how long it is, right, so just like that, and then we're just going to sort of, we go off and we kind of like do a rough sort of drawing, right, of it, and then you sort of cut it out. You might have to have a couple of attempts and sort of test fit, but I have finally got one that I am actually happy with. Right, so if we bring in the model just here, we can now place this as, you know, as close to exactly where it's going to be. This is probably going to be a little bit fiddly as you try and position it basically exactly where our wiper blade is going to be. So now I've got that in position, which, as I say, is rather fiddly. What we're going to do now is we're going to make a really thin mixture of 0.75 sand by Vallejo. When I mean a really thin mixture, I've literally sort of put that much thinners in my cup, and I've took one little drop out of here, right, so it's really thin. We really don't want to be getting hardly any coverage with this. Now because it's really thin, we want to whack our air pressure down to, oh, I mean maybe try and get it down to 10 psi. Let's get that right, yeah, nice and thin, because if you have it too high, it's just going to, sorry, about the lamp, it's just going to spider really quickly. So we want to have the trigger down for air, and then we very slowly, let's get you in a little bit closer, very slowly we're going to just get that biting point just where the paint starts to come out, and we're just very lightly just literally misting out this window, and you really don't want to be going have too much paint coming down. We're going to get the side windows as well. Right, and I just want to make sure I get this just right. Right. Don't come in too close either. Right, because as I say, you want to limit the whole possibility of spidering or pooling up as much as possible, and we're just basically just trying to just very lightly haze that out. Right, and then the cool part is when we sort of get to remove all this masking tape very carefully, because it does scratch rather easy, and then you end up with, you know, these nice clean bits which is sort of like representing your rotor blades and everything, but it's sort of showing that you know the windows have got that little bit of dust that's come on them. Hopefully you can see there, really sort of very nicely sets that off. Don't forget to do your windows just on here as well, just to sort of get everything looking the same. And I'm just going to leave this to sort of dry because this is still drying now. Now we just come to just a little bit just here. We have our MGs just on the side, just nicely sprayed black, just to give these MGs that little bit more life. There's a really cool pigment, is gunmetal by Ammo, which is 3009. Really cool pigment this is. Right, what we want to do, we want to get out a kitchen paper towel, get out any sort of old kind of brush. I've got this one here, it's just really old, just for throwing pigments down. Don't just dip into the pot and then straight onto whatever piece, just get a bit out and then just on the kitchen paper towel dab a little bit down. It just gives us all the control we need to sort of get the right amount of pigment where we want it. So I'm just dabbing on the kitchen paper towel, and then what we can do is just brush this onto sort of like the MG part, and what it does, it just gives it this really nice sort of black metal metallic look to it, which might be a bit hard to see on camera. Hopefully you can sort of just see there, it gives that little bit of a metallic look to it. Now pigments are very sort of, you just get them everywhere. You put a fingerprint, touch your model, and you know it's all over your model. This is why we put it on the kitchen paper towel, so we can fold it up and not get it everywhere, and sort of try and get up whatever's on there, and maybe even go off and just wash your hands after using this stuff, because as I say, you touch your model now, that's it, fingerprints all over. Which then brings us to pretty much the last bit for this series. I should probably go wash my hands, as I've already sort of said, but I want to sort of move along with this. If we sort of take off the propellers, because the propellers and all the rotor blades and stuff, you don't need to glue them on. They fit rather nicely, and it's probably a good idea not to glue them on, because that is going to be the things that actually break on this. So if we sort of turn this upside down without sort of breaking anything, the last little bit we can do here is get out some micro crystal clear. Let's open this up and let's just get out a cocktail stick, and just here is like a little hole. You are supposed to put in, I believe it was PC11, which is a clear part. It just does not fit in there. So what we're going to do is just get a bit of PVA, well the micro crystal clear, on the end of a cocktail stick. That's probably a bit too much of a blob there, and then what we're going to do is just touch this inside, try and touch the sides of the walls right, and try and just sort of let it sort of flow on its own. And probably have to build that up with a bit more, just to sort of try and get it nice and level. Right, and what's going to happen with this is when it finally dries, it will dry crystal clear, as if it did actually have a nice glass lens in there, which is what's really cool about this little technique there. So just let that dry, you know, maybe a couple of hours, and it'll look crystal clear. And that is it for this series of the Lynx. So here we are nicely at the end, and hopefully you'll agree that is looking pretty cool. I really like how the weathering has turned out, all those subtle layers and stages of the enamels and sort of getting that dust effect. Really like how it's ended up turning out. I do like the interior. I mean, we did do, you know, a bit of work on that interior and the pilots as well, which, you know, we got some resident pilots and crew and the photo etch from Edard. Really has sort of set off that interior with that bit of scratch building as well. These propellers, they are, and the rotors and everything, they are rather delicate. I've left mine unglued. The last little clip we did have was doing that nice bit of clear, micro crystal clear. As you can hopefully see, you know, it's left that looking like a piece of glass in there, which is rather cool. So all in all, I mean, building this thing, it wasn't perfect. I did show you, you know, we had lots and lots of gaps, but really the Vallejo putty technique pretty much sorted out literally 99% of those gaps, so it wasn't too bad. You did need to do a lot of sort of test fit and everything, but in the end it did build rather well, and it has got a ton of detail. All these little rivets and everything are really sort of bringing it out and making the surface detail look really cool. So this is going to look really good on my display. Hopefully you've enjoyed this step-by-step here at Genesis Model. So I'm basically going to be going off and sort of seeing what I'm going to build next. So yeah, again, hopefully you've enjoyed this. So until next time, my name is Bob Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed it.